A few years ago, I had the unfortunate experience of working under one of the worst bosses imaginable. Let's call him Stalin. This man wasn't just bad at his job, he was manipulative, arrogant, and toxic to the core. Over time, he made my life and the lives of many of my coworkers a living hell. But in the end, he got what was coming to him. This is the story of how I made sure of that. Metal Dude, then 35M, was second in command at a large branch of a wholesale company in Belgium. I had been with the company for years, working hard and building a reputation as a dependable and efficient leader. My goal was to one day become the branch manager, and I was on track to make that happen. Everything was going smoothly until my old manager was promoted and Stalin, 40M, took over. From the moment Stalin introduced himself, I could tell he was going to be trouble. He strutted in, full of confidence, and declared himself a winner who only worked with other winners. He promised to make our branch the best in the company. It didn't take long for his true colors to show. Stalin had no idea how to manage people, no interest in learning about the company, and absolutely no work ethic. He delegated nearly all of his responsibilities to me, while he spent his time slacking off. At first, I tried to tolerate it. After all, I thought, how long could someone so incompetent last in this position? But Stalin's behavior only got worse. He started pulling ridiculous stunts, like prank calling me pretending to be a competitor, testing my loyalty to the company. He micromanaged everyone's vacation days like he was the Emperor of Rome, making changes at the last minute just to assert his authority. He even canceled my vacation twice, once ruining a trip I had planned with my girlfriend's family. But Stalin's worst habit was his treatment of people. He seemed to take pleasure in humiliating others, especially the younger, more vulnerable employees. He'd berate them in private meetings, threatening their jobs if they didn't work harder, even though he was the laziest of us all. Yet, despite all this, Stalin somehow managed to maintain the facade of a successful manager. When the team hit its targets, he took all the credit. At the company's New Year's reception, he was even named Manager of the Year. Watching him accept that award and praise himself made my stomach turn. Then, one night while working late, I saw something on the security cameras that changed everything. Stalin was kissing a younger coworker in the parking lot, a department head I'll call Naive Girl. It was shocking for two reasons. First, Stalin was married to the daughter of the company's owner. Let's call her Cinderella. Second, Cinderella was pregnant at the time. This wasn't just a personal betrayal, it was a professional scandal waiting to happen. I hated Stalin for many reasons, but this was the final straw. He had humiliated his team, sabotaged my career, and now he was cheating on the boss's pregnant daughter. I knew I had to act, but I also knew I had to be smart about it. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about removing a toxic person who was making life miserable for everyone around him. What followed was a carefully planned campaign to expose Stalin for what he really was: a liar, a cheat, and a fraud. After discovering Stalin's affair with Naive Girl, I knew I couldn't let him keep getting away with everything he had done. Confronting him outright wouldn't work. He'd deny everything, twist the narrative, and probably make my life even worse. Instead, I decided to build a case so strong that he couldn't talk his way out of it. The opportunity to gather more evidence came when he canceled my vacation for the second year in a row. He claimed he had to attend an important business meeting in Prague and needed me at work. Frustrated but suspicious, I insisted he put this in writing. He agreed and sent an email confirming the cancellation. It was a small win, but I didn't yet have proof he was lying. Then, just days later, my girlfriend called me from Greece, where she had gone without me because of Stalin's last-minute change. She sent screenshots from Facebook. Naive Girl had posted photos of herself with Stalin skiing in Switzerland. He wasn't at a business meeting, he was on a romantic getaway. My anger boiled over. He had canceled my holiday so he could cheat on his pregnant wife, Cinderella, who also happened to be the big boss's daughter. This revelation lit a fire in me. I began digging deeper into Stalin's activities, trying to understand how he had managed to rise to power despite being so lazy and incompetent. Then, at a networking event, I had a breakthrough. Another branch manager casually revealed that Stalin had only gotten his job because of his connection to the big boss. He wasn't qualified or deserving. He was simply the husband of Cinderella. Armed with this knowledge, I knew that exposing Stalin's affair wouldn't just be personal, it would also reveal the rot in the company's leadership. This wasn't just about getting even. It was about holding Stalin accountable for years of manipulation, cruelty, and lies. My next step was bold. I tested the password he'd once given me for his work email on his personal account. Unbelievably, it worked. Stalin's password was the name of his favorite soccer team, a testament to his arrogance and lack of foresight. Once inside, I struck gold. I found emails confirming his ski trip with Naive Girl, along with spa and dinner reservations for the upcoming Friday. I also uncovered messages between Stalin and multiple other women, including one from the Philippines. These emails dated back to the early days of his marriage, proving this wasn't a one-time mistake. It was a pattern of betrayal. With all this evidence in hand, I began planning my next move. First, I prepared an envelope for Cinderella. Inside, I included printed photos from Naive Girl's Facebook showing her and Stalin together in Switzerland, along with a note explaining everything. I gave her Stalin's email password and pointed her to his dinner and spa plans for that Friday. Next, I sent an email to the big boss. I detailed how Stalin's frequent absences and lack of accountability were putting the branch under immense strain. To back up my claims, I attached a recording of a phone call in which Stalin had insulted both me and the big boss, calling him senile old fart. The email was polite but firm, and I ended it by saying I was considering resigning. The big boss called me almost immediately, furious. He asked me to delay my resignation and assured me he would handle Stalin personally. Then, almost as an afterthought, he mentioned that he'd be visiting his daughter and grandson that afternoon before stopping by the office to speak with Stalin. The timing couldn't have been better. Friday came, and everything fell into place. Stalin left the office early, as always, to meet Naive Girl. The big boss arrived a few hours later, visibly angry, and asked where Stalin was. I played dumb, saying, "Isn't he at headquarters?" He said he had a meeting with you in Brussels. The big boss's face darkened as he processed what I'd said. Without a word, he stepped outside and made a phone call. Though I couldn't hear the entire conversation, I caught enough to piece it together. He was talking to Cinderella, and whatever she told him made him leave immediately. Later, I found out that the big boss and Cinderella had walked into the restaurant where Stalin and Naive Girl were dining that evening. It was a disaster for Stalin. He thought he could lie, cheat, and manipulate his way through life, but that Friday marked the beginning of his downfall. By Friday evening, Stalin's carefully constructed facade came crashing down. As planned, the big boss and Cinderella walked into the restaurant where Stalin and Naive Girl were having dinner. What exactly happened inside remains a mystery, but from what I later heard, the confrontation was intense. Cinderella had printed out the emails, complete with timestamps and incriminating details, and presented them to Stalin in front of his mistress. The big boss reportedly didn't hold back either, making it clear that Stalin had not only betrayed his wife but also disrespected the company and his leadership. That evening set off a chain reaction. By Monday, Stalin was nowhere to be seen. In his place, a temporary manager from headquarters arrived to run the branch. There was no formal explanation, just a vague announcement that Stalin was on leave. But anyone paying attention could sense the tension in the air. Over the next few weeks, Stalin's absence stretched on, and whispers of his downfall began to spread. My colleagues noticed how relaxed I seemed, but no one suspected my involvement. I acted as surprised as everyone else when we were informed that Stalin wouldn't be returning. Instead, a permanent replacement was appointed, and life at the branch improved almost overnight. The aftermath of Stalin's exposure was as satisfying as I could have hoped. A few years later, after I had been promoted to a position at headquarters, I learned the full story from a senior board member. Stalin's downfall was swift and absolute. Cinderella filed for divorce almost immediately after discovering his infidelity. She not only kicked him out of their home, but also made sure their child would grow up without his toxic influence. Her father, the big boss, was equally enraged. Though firing Stalin outright might have caused legal issues, he demoted him to a meaningless role in the French-speaking part of Belgium. Stalin didn't speak French, or much of anything that resembled a human language, so he was completely out of his depth. Isolated, powerless, and humiliated, Stalin quit within a few months. Without his wife's connections or financial support, Stalin was forced to take a low-paying job far below his previous station. His reputation was in ruins, and he disappeared from the professional world altogether. As for Naive Girl, she came out of the situation relatively unscathed. She moved on quickly, marrying someone else within a year. My girlfriend and I even attended their wedding, though we never brought up her involvement with Stalin. She was a small part of a larger story, and I had no interest in ruining her fresh start. Cinderella eventually found happiness again with a man she had dated before Stalin. From what I heard, they're still together, and she's doing much better without her ex-husband's chaos. The big boss retired a few years later, selling the company for a substantial sum. Though he didn't have a successor, the millions he made from the sale likely softened the blow. As for me, I have no regrets. Stalin tried to ruin my career, undermine my reputation, and take credit for my hard work. He sabotaged my vacations, humiliated my colleagues, and treated people like tools for his own gain. Exposing him wasn't just about revenge, it was about justice. I went on to thrive in my career, finally free of the roadblocks Stalin had put in my way. Looking back, I feel no guilt about what I did. He got exactly what he deserved. Reflecting on everything that happened, I can honestly say I have no regrets. Stalin wasn't just a bad boss. He was a toxic person who used and abused his position to make everyone's life harder. He sabotaged careers, destroyed trust, and took credit for work he didn't do. Exposing him wasn't just personal, it was necessary for the health of the company and everyone who worked there. In the end, Stalin's downfall was entirely his own doing. He was arrogant enough to think he could get away with everything, cheating on his pregnant wife, lying to his boss, and treating his team like disposable tools. All I did was give the truth a little push in the right direction. What makes this story satisfying isn't just that Stalin faced consequences. It's that everyone involved came out better for it. Cinderella got out of a terrible marriage and found happiness with someone who truly cared for her. The company rid itself of a toxic leader and thrived under new management. Even Naive Girl moved on to a healthier relationship. As for me, I finally had the freedom to grow in my career without Stalin holding me back. I went on to earn promotions and build the life I wanted, proving that justice, and sometimes karma, has a way of working things out. If there's one lesson to take away from this, it's that toxic people rarely change, and sometimes the best thing you can do is hold them accountable for their actions. Standing up to someone like Stalin wasn't easy, but it was worth it. If you enjoyed this story or found it meaningful, consider sharing it or discussing it with others. And if you're dealing with a toxic boss or workplace, know that you're not alone. There's always a way to take back your power, whether it's through direct action or simply walking away. For more stories like this and advice on handling tough situations, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let's keep the conversation going.